All right. Hey, everyone. Thanks for tuning in tonight. Thanks, Ebony, for stepping up with the music. Um, so, happy Tuesday. Welcome. um, Thanks for coming to our second social situation um, from ACD. I think we will look to keep this going and continue to find ways to keep connecting with you all and each other in throughout these times this year and beyond. Um, we are the Association for Community Design. Maybe if all the board members can like clap reaction for the room or jazz hands. We're here. We're with you. Happy to see you all. And we're here basically just to continue to build relationships with each other. We're all having to find alternate ways to connect in these times. And before 2020, ACD was working on ways to, we were working on alternate and more frequent ways to connect with our members beyond our annual conference, which, as you may know, is now virtual and is occurring next week. If you are not a member, I'll just drop this in the chat for you to become a member, or pass it along to colleagues who are interested in community design and being a part of a network and a community with us all here. We'd love to have you and love to be with you and to learn from you. One of my favorite things and draws to ACD was learning from peers and mentors and really my community design heroes. And it keeps me motivated in the world we find ourselves in today. And I'll share these again later, but if you haven't registered for our conference next week, here's a link. The theme is recentering, and we're going to spend the next hour or so today just really, I guess, previewing the conference and revisiting the past year for our fellows, and revisiting with each other in breakout rooms, and then talking about how we have all found ways to recenter throughout this year. So these social situations are basically a more casual, lighter way for us to gather in the meantime and really just have that togetherness. Feel free to drop in the chat like any input you have on these. If you have ideas for social situations in the future, happy to hear them. I guess now I will introduce Shalini Agrawal. She is really responsible for getting this ACD fellowship started, and I don't know, I'll let her share about how that came to be.
Hey everyone, nice to see you all. Thank you for joining today, and really excited to be here to talk about this amazing experience it has been for me. Community engagement, community design, community practice can be really isolating work, and oftentimes it's doing work that needs to be done in and with our communities, and especially towards equity. And in doing so, it can be long and lonely. And also, we need to be in this all together. So I think this fellowship program has really been that place for me. And I've been able to really learn from this amazing group, this amazing cohort. And it really has modeled what it feels like to be in support of each other's leadership, and how we can collectively remove barriers to our leadership and be who we need to be in the communities that we work in. It's really based in shared values, as a lot of my friends here in ACD are, and this is why I really love this community, is we believe the same, we have a lot of shared values, and that really helps to shape what we do and how we do it. So it's kind of my very informal introduction to what the fellowship means to me. Very briefly, it has run for a little over a year. It's going into its second year, and it is a cohort model so that, again, we can all learn and be in community together. And there have been mentors that have stepped up to offer their expertise. There was an in-person, we met at the in-person conference. And yeah, we've done a lot of community building and meetings online, but it is, I would say, the shared values and that has really brought us together. And I think that's what you'll be hearing about today. So yeah, I'll let the others share their experiences.
Hi everyone. I guess I can start. My name is Camila Jordan. Sorry for my camera is not working. It gets a little bit shy sometimes starting. I am originally from Brazil. That's where I'm calling it from São Paulo. And I was living in New York at the time when I applied for the fellowship. I came to New York to do a master's degree, and wasn't in my plans, but I ended up falling in love with New York and with the whole scene in urban planning and all of the amazing organizations that work in New York. And I thought, okay, I guess I'm gonna try and stay. And I did some work, and I tried, and I even got the really rare chance of being sponsored by a nonprofit in New York City, but it ended up that the visa that I was applying for is the one that goes to the lottery. I'm sure a lot of people who don't know about usually people from the US don't know a lot about how the immigration works, but it's really hard. So I didn't get picked up in the lottery, even though I was already working. And I was working with the basement apartment legalization program in New York. I don't know if you all heard about it. And unfortunately, as it is now, it has been canceled by Mayor de Blasio because of COVID. They're trying to get it back, but it's not sure. So yeah, so I was working in that project, and or actually I was looking for, I think, for a job at the time, and I applied for the fellowship because I was so interested in everything that just happens in the US, and there are a lot of things that are very similar to Brazil. And so I was just trying to immerse myself as much as possible in all the experiences that I could get a hand of. And this fellowship just came about as I was just like cruising the internet looking for opportunities in this field, and I got picked. So it was such a surprise, and it took me all the way to Mississippi, which was a place I would probably not get to in 3 years living in the US. And it was an amazing opportunity, especially to meet in person the other amazing women who are part of this cohort and get this community and relationship started. And now I am back in Brazil. I came against my will, but here I am. And I actually got back to working for a nonprofit that I used to be a volunteer for a really long time. It's a nonprofit that works with emergency housing relief and poverty, and helping people out of poverty, supporting them. And it's basically modeled as on supporting communities throughout their own capacities to work together to find solutions. And so I'm leading the organization now. It's been a huge challenge because I started in the middle of COVID, and I'm learning a lot. And today I made a huge mistake, which I was crying about earlier before. But I guess, you know, when you're taking chances, you're also making mistakes and hopefully learning from them. And definitely this cohort has given me all the courage and support to be who I am, and to be able to share all those things, the good and the bad. So I'm really thankful for this opportunity. Thank you.
We decided to go alphabetical by first name, and so I am next. My name is Ebony Dumas. I am based in Hyattsville, Maryland, which is right outside of Washington, D.C., where I lived for about 15 years. I'm an urban planner, and before I became an urban planner, I spent about 10 years working in arts and culture and nightlife and kind of the intersection of like what cities sometimes build their community, their economic development off of, so like working in art galleries, working in, the service industry. And so I started to realize like, oh, wow, there's like a bigger picture going on right now. And so that's what got me into urban planning. And so as I came into urban planning a little bit later in my career, it was, about 10 years in between undergrad and grad school. And so I was working for an organization doing like community development. And in this organization, I was literally told to leave my values outside of the office. And so that was maybe a little bit of a flag for me. And so I always knew I could like, kind of not necessarily bring like my full, like, radical liberation self to my daytime work, but just to be told like flat out, like this is what we're doing and, the economics are more important than any values. That was when I applied to the ACD fellowship. And I realized like I can't continue to go and like have these really different lives. It has to be some overlap that like really accepts me for who I am, and not just when it's convenient and it wins a grant, but on a day-to-day basis. And so now through the fellowship, I had a lot of mentorship and like community building with the cohort. So I've entered the public sector, and it's been a much better fit. And I've appreciated these folks that we're in a cohort with, because we have been able to like guide each other, listen to our failures, lift each other up in times where we're confused, as Camila said. And yeah, that's where I am now. And I think next in the alphabet is M.
I am Melissa Beth Sanders. I am located in St. Louis, Missouri. I kind of found the cohort at the perfect moment. I had just left traditional practice of architecture. I practice architecture and urban design, and I had left a project where I was doing a developer-led project where they were all about diversity and renderings, but not bringing the correct people to the table and not actually advocating on behalf of the community that they were actually going to be displacing. And so I decided that I couldn't do that anymore, and I stepped out to kind of do something on my own. But being in St. Louis, I was really searching for a bridge to other people who were practicing the same type of work that I saw myself doing. And I just wanted it modeled in front of me that I could do this type of work and that it would work out the way that I thought that it could. And so I reached out, it was on a whim that I decided to apply for the fellowship. I was just like, you know what, let's see if it'll happen. And it was amazing to just connect with everyone in the cohort and to learn from their experiences and realize that it was so similar to everything that I was going through currently, but also everyone was in sort of a transitional period of making sure that their work was aligning with their values and what they were really wanting to stand up for. And it gave me such a boldness to be able to go after projects and also kind of get in the way of certain projects where I saw that, they were heading down a path where communities weren't being advocated for. So I was able to kind of insert myself and help in ways that I would have not been bold enough to even think about doing. But I also felt less like I was on an island in the Midwest, and less that I was kind of isolated. And I really was able to learn from a lot of people who have been doing this for a long time and really have just made incredible change. And so now I have my own practice, and it's solidly my own practice, and I'm pretty full, which is great, and busy. I'm also teaching at WashU in St. Louis, and And I have been able to not only advocate for communities, but also bring educational components to it so that I'm educating communities on the process of planning and neighborhood plans, and also writing in their actual goals and things that they are wanting. So that's been really validating for me, and it's been life-changing. I think, is it Sarah?
Hi everyone, I am Sara Salmai Habib, and just to give you a little background, I grew up in Southwest Asia, also known as the Middle East. Then I went to the East Coast to study, and then I ended up in the West Coast. So really my rooting in community practice started in, I would say, Central and Southern California. I worked mainly as an architectural designer in multifamily affordable housing, both in the nonprofit world and also just traditional architectural firms as a designer. I've always been an artist, so during that time of applying for the ACD, I was reaching this breaking point of really needing to do more than what I was doing, designing affordable housing the way that we were going about it in my firm. I felt like we were actually creating harm in a lot of ways that we were going about that work. And so, yeah, I was just trying to do the most because I was also working as a volunteer artist at one of the only community centers that was really focusing on BIPOC in Santa Barbara. So I was there working as well as volunteering to do art pop-ups and facilitating healing events, mainly for BIPOC individuals in Santa Barbara. And also just studying off on my own. So yeah, it was a really huge breaking point for me because I just needed something to change. And I applied because I really needed community that already understood the values that I had around design and architecture as a vehicle for just healing and to serve, not really the traditional, colonial Western architectural model of it symbolizing capital, in my view. And so where I am now is kind of echoing what the other fellows have said, is really being bold about integrating my whole self as like just someone that needs to integrate healing work and creative artistic practice into this role that I stepped into as like a builder. So I call it like story keeping now. And it's really, for me, ancestral work, grief work, memorial work. And that's taken on the shape of meeting with artists around the nation and even globe, like virtually, because we're more willing now to have these conversations about what reparations looks like, and how does design serve as like a tool to illuminate the processes and ritual around like memorializing and truth telling for that liberation work that we talk about, and also building as a container to hold those sacred spaces, architecture as a container to hold those sacred spaces. Yeah, that's the short version. And I think Taylor is next.
I'm gonna try, first, I'm Taylor Holloway. I'm gonna try not to cry because all of you talking is getting me so emotional. I think it's part of aging, but I also think it's because this space that the ACD Fellowship is, and that the ACD community is, genuinely is a place that I call home. And I've said it before, but finding ACD and joining the fellowship really was like coming home for me. I am a mixed race woman raised in California, and Santa Fe, New Mexico, and Boston and Chicago, so many places. And in 2017, I had reached a kind of breaking point with Chicago and kind of trying to break into a huddle of established community designers and social impact designers who were ahead of me, were my mentors, were my employers, but could not myself break out and really be and do the things that I wanted to do in a way that felt timely and recognized. And so I went on a crazy journey that took me to South Africa, where I met Sophie Morley, and then came back here and started formulating some ideas about place-based storytelling and the democratization of design and placekeeping. And that led me to the quick fire session at Reverbs in 2018 in Baltimore. And that conference and the immediacy of like care and fellowship that I felt there changed my life and changed the trajectory of my work. I met my professional partners, my life partner, and so many other people at that conference. And so for me, the fellowship the following year was much less like, oh, I just happened to come across. It was like, no, I was starting to dig my heels deep into ACD. So the fellowship came at the perfect time. And, you know, I don't know how many other people can say, maybe we all, maybe only a few of us can really say that in this work, there's a feeling of, am I at the right place at the right time? Am I doing the right things? Am I doing enough of the right things? Do I know enough to do the right things? All of these questions that I had, and even though there were a few voices like Catherine Darnstead and Roberta Feldman saying like, no, you've got this, I still couldn't find the place where I actually could act on those things that I supposedly had within me. And so I think the fellowship became the place where we could genuinely bring that out in each other. And I credit all of these women and Shalini and all of the ACD board for creating a genuinely safe and beautiful space for us to do that. And it couldn't have come a minute or a year later, to be honest. So as much as I wish I could make up a new title for myself, I think I still am a social impact designer. I'm trained as an architect, but some people think I'm a graphic designer. Some people think I'm an HR representative. Some people think I'm a community designer. Some people think I speak for all half Black women in the US. Like there's just, but at the core of it, I'm a social impact designer. And I live and work in New Orleans, where I consult for a lot of organizations here, but also organizations in other places. I have my own practice, which is called Public Design Agency. And I also am one of the co-founders of the newest iteration of Design as Protest. And I'm also a member of a team, which is full of many people on this call who make Design as Protest a reality and continue to add to the sort of amazing expanse of what designers of all sorts of backgrounds can do to change the world that we were brought up in to become the professionals we are, and hopefully influence others to want to change it as well. Yeah, I don't know what else to say other than it's really nice to be on this call and see all of your faces. It's almost as good as being in Greenwood. Like I saw Carnell a second ago and I was like, wow, I haven't seen you since we were down south. So yeah, I don't know if there's anything else I was supposed to speak to, so I'll just hold off for a little while. Thanks.
Awesome. And so I think one more like quick lightning round with all the fellows, and then we can kind of move to the next part. But favorite moment at ACD fellowship, and I'll go first. Go. It's that moment of like, okay, am I going to like be vulnerable and be open with this person, whether it's the cohort or a mentor or, you know, Shalini, and then you make that decision and you say yes, and then you're actually held and like heard. So that's definitely a favorite moment. And also dancing late night in clubs whenever I would see these ladies in person, whether it's at Black in Design or random visits to New Orleans or New York City before Camila had to leave. So those are favorite moments. And next, go.
I can go. I would have to say when we first met is one of my all-time favorites. I had flown in from California, got into Memphis, rented a car, drove 4 hours, and I pulled up to this house and I was literally like, what am I getting myself into? But it definitely felt like a new chapter. And we all sat around food and wine, and it was really meaningful when Shalini shared why we were there. And just like the values that we shared in our applications, and reflecting on that now, it really shows why like this kind of like curated ecosystem turned out the way that it is, like such a supportive force. Yeah, that's for sure.
Yes, and yes to everything that you both have said, especially the dancing. I'll plus one that. For me, it's been scheduling a call with one of the cohort members and just like having the weight of something very prevalent on my mind, and then getting on the phone and they're dealing with the same thing, or they've dealt with the same thing, and just getting that support and realizing that I wasn't alone in feeling that way or navigating that situation, and to have other people in the trenches with me.
Yes, yes, and yes. It's very hard to say something different. I think it was so interesting. I actually took the train. Getting to Mississippi from New York was much more complicated than I thought. And I took the train and I arrived at that train station and those like abandoned like street, and I was like, is this a horror movie? Like I was like, I don't know what what I'm getting into. And yeah, I don't know. I think just being it's just been so amazing to meet everyone. I don't know if I can pick a favorite moment.
I'll even add to that though, Cami, because I remember when you were running a little bit behind for our dinner and you were like, oh, don't worry, I'll take an Uber. And we were like, oh, no, baby, no, no, no. I'm sorry, no, you won't. We'll wait for you.
That's true.
Of course, Greenwood was amazing, and it felt like we were like on the varsity whatever squad team, because it was like, yes, you know, for me and a few others, we had some ACD time under our belts, but it also just felt like we had like Letterman jackets as the fellows that we got to proverbially wear. I didn't go to a school that had these kinds of teams, obviously, because I don't know what I'm talking about. But I, you know, as much as I've appreciated our calls, and I love them because they kind of reflect the ebb and flow of what's happening in the world. Like, we all join calls where we're all feeling hopeful, and then we've all joined calls where we're all like, oh, we're not so hopeful. And it's been really amazing to like, I don't think we've ever been on a call where our sort of collective mood, happiness, grieving wasn't shared. So that's really beautiful. I think the other thing that I really appreciate is just, there is no doubt in my mind, and we've already done this, but that we can continue to collaborate in so many other ways, personally and professionally. And that's a really amazing feeling to not even have to think about it and know you can text someone or email someone or WhatsApp someone and say, hey, I've got this thing going on, or do you want to help with this, or can you chime in on this? And that person will literally be like, yes, when are you ready to talk? Like, that's something I never experienced until this. So that's something I really appreciate.
Thank you.
Thank you all for sharing. It's been amazing to hear this from all of you, and I know most of you as a board member and through DAP and other ways. And I'll just say that fellowship is really valuable, especially when you feel together with your cohort. And it can help you recenter your work, reorganize it, and reprioritize in some cases. And I think that's one of the themes about this conference we will virtually host next week, and the prompt for our breakout rooms right now. So Stephen's going to work on getting us into 3 rooms that'll be randomly assigned, and
so we'll spend 20 minutes together in rooms, and then we'll all kind of come back and kind of go from there. So you'll have to get a prompt to join rooms, and see you all again soon. Hello, everyone.
Hey, welcome back to the big house, or room, or space. I think we're mostly all here. I don't know if we want to spend a little bit of time going around and summarizing some themes that we heard. How does that sound? Anything? All right. Who wants to start?
Well, I'll just go kind of briefly for our group and say that actually our conversation was about avoid, or the lack, kind of that missing component of fellowship right now was really what was resonating for all of us. And just really, when so much of your practice is rooted in being in person, and so many of your experiences and how you're vulnerable or how you're connecting are often getting out of everyday life. But when everyday life looks very similar to this, so you all are wonderful, you know, how do we make ourselves, like, how do we have that differentiated and shared space, sacred space, I would say. Yeah, so that's what we talked about. Did I miss anything from my group?
Thanks, Allie. Something that came up in our room was how we've refocused our time and energy this year. And for me, this is just one of the things that stuck out to me, is that I've poured pretty much all of my time and energy into our student interns at the Design Center and my students at the School of Architecture at Detroit Mercy. And it adds up, and it's a lot. Being a part of ACD and Design as Protest, it's hard to remember to take stock of the time and energy you have, and that you can't do it all, and it's best to practice and learn the practice of when you need to step back and find space to recenter and recharge, to use those words.
Josh, that's 1,000% true. And the adage that you can't give from an empty cup never had as much meaning for me as it did until this year. And recognizing that energy cannot be gained from sleep hours, energy really is gained from happiness and freedom hours. And so that's something I've been incredibly grateful for, especially with our DAP organizing, is the transparency that we have to say, hey, I can or I cannot step up or step back, kind of, as the language that we use. And I think back to this moment where, like, there's no really good, safe, clean water to swim in New Orleans proper. You have to leave the city for a number of hours to find that. And I found this place called Grand Isle, and there's dolphins there. And I went there by myself, and I like FaceTimed my partner, Brian, and I was like, we're coming back. So the next weekend we went back and we're like swimming in this water, which is like, it's, you know, it's clean enough. But he said, thank you, because we spend so much time going and working that we forget that we'll be better at our work if we take time to be better at just living. So I agree that fellowship, good fellowship, recognizes that.
That's real. And I mean, this is not an official like report back or anything, but I think that really also asks us to trust others and trust that the work will be done, trust that it doesn't have to be done to like the same exact way that we would color code a spreadsheet and, you know, have the filter set to this particular, you know, so I don't know, for me, it's been an exercise of trust as well. Like, I don't need to be the person doing all the things because I can't. I mean, I'm not gonna hate on you if you color code your spreadsheet in your particular way. I'm just saying, I don't need to be involved in all the color choices. We all know what the color wheel is. Oh man, it's so awkward making jokes when everybody's on mute.
I'm laughing out loud.
Honey, not into it.
Laughing out loud.
We'll all laugh together.
Thank you for sharing. Anyone else have some final reflections? If not, that's all right. We can just jam out together.
Just leaving an open invitation for anyone who wants to come down south whenever things are getting better.
Yeah, I would love to someday.
Are all the fellows presenting at the conference?
There's going to be a DAP presentation.
I'm presenting. I'm very excited. It's the first conference I ever submitted to, and I got accepted. I'm very excited.
That's how it all starts.
All right.
Yeah, I submitted to that, and then I submitted to Hindsight in New York, and I got accepted to both. So I got to find some Zoom talk to present in.
Amazing. Hindsight is so great as well.
No, it's very, very exciting.
At least, you know, I know everyone is super upset that everything is via Zoom, but it means that I'm from Brazil, I can participate. So I'm happy with that.
Although it's for me, like, I'm finding it interesting because as I mentioned, or maybe it was just in the breakout, that I may be taking on a community engagement role with an institution, and it's like, how do you do community engagement via Zoom? I'm not sure, but it's been good practice to do all of these conversations with people of the peers.
عيوني سهرة دموعي حيرة عيوني سهرة دموعي حيرة عينيا بتبكي
Just say hi.
عليك
It's over here.
بمرارة عينيا بتبكي
Just say hi, like a normal person. Bad escalator thing. I don't know what that was.
Sharing gaps where like you and Brian are at different computers, but you're like in the same house.
I think most of us on this call know who he is.
Yeah. He's nice enough that he'll go in the hallway most of the time, so I can stay in our office. He has a little like stool he sits on in the hallway.
See that ladder and the vacuum?
Josh, don't put me on blast like that for my home organization. We don't have a backyard or a garage, so our hallway is our shed.
Also, I recommend everyone follow Ebony's playlists if you can. I've been listening so much, and I've already passed on to so many friends.
Oh snap! Okay. That's...
The one that you passed on last time.
Oh yeah. Actually, I think I have like a live mix. Maybe I'll just play that live mix.
Little black girl from the south, little black girl run her mouth, little black girl don't know where to go, cause she like the clown and the teachers stay kicking her out. Insecure but she won't say it out loud, all she wanna do is make her mama proud. She wanna be like them other girls, they in another world, she just can't figure them out.
Interesting how Spotify at the end of the year will like tell you this is like the artist that you stream the most. And I think like it can be like really indicative of like your mood for the year. Like mine last year was Azalea Banks, which to me was like, oh man, I must be wanting to dance but very trying to be provocative. I don't know what it was, but it was like, I'm glad to be able to stream with Azalea Banks.
That means you're ready to turn up all the time, anytime.
Pretty much, yeah. I guess that's true, yeah.
Ebony, let's throw a party here in São Paulo.
Yeah, like a transnational party.
You feel like summertime. You took this heart of mine. You'll be my Valentine in the summer. In the summer. You are my only one. Just dancing, having fun. Out in the shining sun of the summer. Of the summer.
Songs so I can add them to my own playlist.
Do love me, do love me, do. Do love me, do love me, do. I love you. Do love me, do love me, do. Do love me, do love me, no one else above you. Do love me, do love me, do. Do love me, do love me, do. I need you. Do love me, do love me, do. Do love me, do love me, do.
For your ears.
como ser. You so crazy, I'm scatter brain myself. Juju baby, show me the way to bargain. I'm gonna get what I want now. Just gotta roll up my sleeve. I just came home to a blunt now, baby. When I'm with you, my girl, I can breathe. Vaporize up. Come change my mind up. Vaporize up. Vaporize up. I'm breathing easy when I'm with you.
Hey, I feel like it's all board members now. Does that mean the party stops?
Now it's the board member jam. Yeah.
Woo, turn up before the conference.
All right, Glenn, get it.
Yeah. Also, Steven, what kind of like magical mansion are you in right now? Where are you?
In my house.
In your house.
Yeah.
I'm going to the murder mystery party.
Good bar.
Is this your normal Zoom background?
No, my normal Zoom background's what I think you usually see, the florals.
Oh, right.
It's psychedelic florals. This is of the tour to wallpaper. This is a different room that has a much more old schooly Victorian vibe.
I love it.
With the Bombay back there, you ready to make a new
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually transitioning away from the Bombay, really embracing the Hendrix, but
I'm in support of that. It's just smoother. It's better, you know?
It was gimlet season, and now it's red wine.
It looks from your background like it's murder mystery season.
Okay.
Yes.
Literally texting me that in the middle of the session, like, this is my murder mystery. So, when's it appropriate to have another Minneapolis? I don't know. Whenever you guys
in the summer.
I don't know if I ever told you this, but my birthday is on the 13th of the month, and so my mom threw me, my 15th birthday was on Friday the 13th, and she threw me a murder mystery party and made all of my friends come in character and costume, and had like a fortune teller and a butler, and the creepy person who obviously was guilty, but that would have been the perfect backdrop. We were orange trees in my backyard, quite as glamorous, but.
You can do some pretty laborious parties. I believe in us.
I think we're going to have a good closing party. Ife, you know DJ Tara, right?
Yes.
Makosa. And so I put her at the top of the list for Shannon to check in with to see if she's available for our closing party.
Ooh, lovely. Yes, I love it.
Mm-hmm. The number 2 is Oscar N.A. Enye from Poppy Juice, who's also an urban planner, and he used to work at CUP.
Wow. Wait a minute. Yes, I do know Oscar. He's also Vanguard.
Oh, okay.
Oh, my. Oh, that's cool. Well, all these urban planner DJs, what's the connection there? Is there like a party, an organization y'all got going on or something?
You know what? We should definitely start one. Like legitimizing nightlife.
Yes.
And to figure out how ACD can sponsor it, because I'm in full support.
Yep. One day they'll convene to teach mankind a lesson. Cause right now I see power when I see her midsection. Move.
All right, y'all, I'm gonna go eat. Thanks.
Great.
Good night.
Good night.
Yeah.
Bye.
See you soon.
Treat her like the king. If you know you can't live without her. Shit is all over TV.
And I'm going to throw you something a little bit.
I look how Steven's picture is Janet. How did that happen?
Account and your photo shows up on it as like the holder of the account, and so like when I'm logging in, I can change my name, but I can't change the photo.
Yeah, we might have to work on that for the conference. By the way, Ebony, thank you so much for making the connection with Victoria. I was a little bit freaking out that we still didn't have anyone, and now we have someone, so I'm much more reassured.
Great. And she said there's one other person who actually did the tech support for AMC who could also be available if
awesome.
for some reason it doesn't work out.
Awesome. Thank you.
Cause I see power when I see her midsection.
Is this a playlist that I can access online somehow?
Why, yes. It's
Tell me more.
a website. It's a relatively new mix that I added, and so it's like EbonyDumas.com, you know.
I get it through your website?
Yeah.
Cool.
So I was working with a bid. Crazy news, but they paid very well, and I made 2 playlists for them. They're good playlists.
Which is this Summer Vibes?
What are folks working on now?
Dancing.
That's good.
Like I have a weird etiquette thing now, like I was like I'm able to see what the dog is, and I feel like
Find the dog.
Stephen, a kind of boring accounting question. Would we have any issue paying a contractor who lives in Canada?
I don't think so.
Lynn would probably
pay them.
We would know. Is that what you said?
You know?
This would, I think, would be about $2,000.
Yeah, because that would be like we'd have to do a 1099 issuing for that, and we'd need a W-9. So I guess like as long as they're okay sending us a W-9 and getting a 1099, they'll just have to claim they receive foreign income. I guess technically, I don't know. At least that's how I've ended up seeing it work for me.
Okay. Cool. They said that they already did this with another organization, so I'll follow up with them and ask them.
Yeah, so I think I don't think it should be a problem on our end. And yeah, I can ask Lynn if he sees any issues with that.
Cool.
You know, is Lynn a he, she, they?
I have not with them directly, so I'm not sure how they identify. Yeah.
Sorry to pause in the music. Please, let's return. No more accounting questions tonight.
You know, we're going to talk about like spreadsheet formulas next because that is my party land.
Yeah, you know, Ebony, when you were talking about color-coded spreadsheets, I was like, ooh, you're gonna have a bone to pick with Shannon.
No, I was like, oh man, like I don't want to make it seem like I'm coming for you. No, it's not.
I was just cracking up because I was like, yeah, all right, I've got a reputation. I'm just like I'm like, okay, all right, it's okay. I just believe in my own spreadsheet love. You know, I know I'm a weirdo.
I mean, I'm the same way with events. It was like with this one, and I didn't hear from Josh for a little while, and I was like, getting a lot of anxiety. But then I was like, you know what? It's gonna happen. I gotta trust him. I gotta trust people. It's okay. And it happened.
Ethe, were you in Syracuse, or was that just your exhibition you got a picture of?
I'm in Syracuse.
You're in Syracuse?
Yes, I'm here for the week.
Say hi to Michael and Angie for me.
Oh my goodness! Did you go to Syracuse?
Yeah, I went to Syracuse. I was there for 6+ years, so I know Slocum Hall very well. So I immediately knew where you
campus.
And I worked with Angie in New York, teaching, helping run the New York studio, and so I know Michael through that.
Man, this is like the coolest administration ever. Michael is so cool and just quirky, and Angie is cool and quirky. Like, I just get all kinds of good vibes off of Syracuse.
That's great.
Downstate and upstate. What'd you say?
Are you gonna do more classes with them, do you think, in New York?
Yeah, they've asked me to sign on again to teach my design justice course next semester. Yeah. And I will be coming up periodically between now and November to teach a studio.
Awesome.
Yeah. What'd you say?
How long have classes been in session already?
So we started in the beginning of September, and this is my first trip up, and then I'll come back 2 other times in October. So we're like in heavy pandemic land, and especially with kids, and they're running everywhere, and they're not really quarantining, and so I've got a face shield and a mask and hand sanitizer.
Those Syracuse kids are party animals, so.
Yeah, it's a different energy on the campus though. They're drawing these white circles everywhere in the grass.
Yeah.
So all the grass is covered with all these white circles, but nobody's sitting in them. Nobody is sitting outside. Nobody, like, it's just really weird. It's like just all this like vacantness on the quad and all the grassy areas, but all you see are these white circles everywhere.
Is the weather that there like folks that are still outside there? I don't know that much about upstate New York weather in September.
I would say it's moving towards fall, but it's not cold. It's not like freezing. Like it's warm enough for you to just catch a nice breeze while sitting outside. So it's nice. I think if it wasn't for the fact that we're in the midst of a pandemic, people would be outside.
Oh yeah.
Sitting on the lawns and stuff. And the fact that like most classes are virtual, even though students are on campus. So that's another reason why they're just not, sitting on lawns and things. So it's eerie. And there are all these tents everywhere because they're having classes outside. Yeah, it's just very interesting.
Weird.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, again, I don't know that much about upstate New York weather, but snow is like real serious there. How long is that tent thing going to continue?
Yeah, I don't know what they're going to do in wintertime, to be honest with you.
They just make it out.
There's a lot of space heaters.
Yeah, they're just making it out. Space
but they're also trying to keep, they're trying to keep people from being in one whole room, like, so I don't know what they're, yeah, maybe space heaters. I don't know. I don't know.
I heard a bunch of colleges are just like skipping fall break and trying to end everything early too, so it'll be done like around Thanksgiving.
Oh, because they're ending my class the beginning of the first week of November. It's like a real quick 2-month thing.
Yeah, I heard that's pretty standard now.
Usually a little shorter.
Interesting. Okay, I thought it was just our studio. I didn't realize it. Because others are ending around. So what a lot of the other like Columbia, they are ending in person around Thanksgiving, and then they're just going virtual for the cold season.
Yeah, I guess proving the point that students don't need to be paying exorbitant fees to fly home for Thanksgiving, because we really could finish classes before holidays, or before, like that end of November when people want to travel. So I always thought, I was like, this is a conspiracy with airlines that we would always go back to school for like a week and a half afterwards, and I was like, this feels so silly. Like, why are we doing this?
That's true. Yeah. One of the other instructors doesn't think that this in-person instruction will continue after, end of September. He thinks there's going to be like, particularly on campuses, because students are not really, they're not paying attention they're not heeding the rules.
Yeah, someone was telling me they thought that, I know this is a bit almost mean or evil, but like they're saying most of the colleges were starting in person just so people wouldn't protest about the like fees. And that way it's like, hey, we tried to do it. You're still paying full tuition. I'm like, sorry, we had to shut down,
I think that's true.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, totally. And in order to be able to get that money, because that's a lot of money. I mean, housing, food, all the other expenses that, money that kids spend on campuses, like that's a huge amount of
people hate on finance and healthcare, but higher education is insane.
Yeah.
Especially places like Syracuse that are not Ivy League, but cost Ivy League.
Yeah, all the universities must be hurting, but they can stand the hurt. I think they've got quite a bit of money saved up at this point.
Tap into that campaign to redo your pretty street out front and just suck it up. I haven't been back to Syracuse in a long time, so I was like excited to see the CNC cut plywood in the social Hall with his name on it in her Insta post.
Yeah, it's a beautiful campus. It's got a beautiful building that the students are working in.
All right, I'm gonna go eat some dinner, but it was great to see all of you.
Enjoy. Bye.
Yeah.
Shannon, I'm still burning my beautiful candle that you sent me. Shannon sent me like a whole care package with like homemade cookies, a candle, these little like journals. Oh gosh, I cried. I had tears of joy.
So when you're not color coding spreadsheets, you're sending beautiful little care packages?
I love sending people gifts. It's like, I don't know, it's like maybe my Virgo-ness. I love like putting together little gifts and mailing them. So yeah, I was really happy to do that. I actually, when I went into the store, I like smelled the candle through my mask, and I was like, I sort of have an idea what this smells like, but I'm not gonna like do the thing where I take my mask off and open the candle up in the middle of a pandemic and like get my nose all in it. It smells okay, because I just kind of went off of the pattern on the container, and I was like, okay, I hope this is, but yeah. Well, I'm happy to hear that. Stephen, if you and Jake want some cookies,